We don't have any alternates, so we don't have to worry about seating anybody. Are there any additions or changes in the order of the agenda?
Yes. So, oh, sorry, Mary Kay, you go first if you have something.
No, go ahead, Isabel.
I was gonna say I don't see. Oh, he just joined. Okay, I was gonna suggest changing around the order of the agenda to accommodate our applicant here.
Oh, okay.
I'm just looking for one thing in our agenda really quickly under new business. Just as an item of discussion, I'd like to add possibly the scheduling of a site walk on Erdoney Road. There's a drainage issue that's been ongoing. I know that the resident who's having the problem would like to potentially add some drainage to his site. There's some currently existing that he'd like to improve. But just in having discussions with him, I think he'd like some feedback from the commission before actually going through with the application. Because it is a bit of a doozy, and I personally recommended that an engineer may be necessary. And so I think he would like feedback from commission members as well as to comfort level and what you would be potentially willing to allow, and if you feel engineering would be necessary. So I'd like to possibly schedule kind of a preliminary site walk at that location if possible.
Is that the lot that's right close to the water?
It's across from the water on Erdoney Road. It's actually across from Mary Roykel's property.
Oh, okay.
So
Canotti's next door, right?
yes, yeah, across from the Canottis. So when we did the site walk for the application that Jim Blair had submitted to do some work on the Canotti's property, that resident actually did come and kind of have some discussion and some interest in the drainage in that area. He's been having some problems. And so I think it'd be good for commission members to see it before a full application is submitted, because it might require some substantial investment.
Okay, so we don't have any additions or changes yet.
John, if I may, at the appropriate time, I'd like to understand when there is work to be done on the lake, when do we involve obviously Isabel and or the committee? There are a couple of things that have come up. There's something that has been discovered on the lake that was put on the lake without a permit from wetlands or from LMAC. There are two open permits that were supposed to be under construction this fall, if approved by LMAC, and I see no wetlands permit for those two permit applications for those two permits, and some of the work has already been done.
To me now.
Such
Okay.
fun.
Can we get those on for our next meeting in September, maybe?
Yes.
Sure.
So
Yeah, Isabel, I sent you an email about this way back in March. LMAC is just addressing it with a motion on Wednesday to halt all work until LMAC and perhaps wetlands can do site visits and figure out what the heck's going on.
okay. I will I'll take a look for that, and hopefully we can get those applications in front of the commission for September.
It's
Perfect.
relative for wetlands, it would be 17 Sleepy Hollow. We have worked with this individual before, Mr. Dobush.
Okay.
There are two applications pending at LMAC that I believe at least one, if not both, would require wetlands.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, very good. So
Thank you.
worry about that in September, and we can act on it in October probably, if they get the applications in. Okay, any communication or correspondence?
Sorry, no, not tonight.
Okay, very good. So, and is there anything, Mr. Armstrong, that you would like to say before we begin our meeting?
No, I'm just just following along, I guess.
Okay, very good. So then we'll talk about new business, item 6.1 on the IWWC 2425-02, the application, which is going to be a jurisdictional ruling. The application of Michael Armstrong to install a tarp to cover curly leaf pondweed in the Columbia Lake at 5 Sunny Slopes Road. And we'll try to schedule a site walk. You want to give us a little background on that, Isabel?
Yes, so a couple points. Right now, this is in front of the commission as a jurisdictional ruling, similar to the farm pond that Chris Ram applied to do some renovations to, repairs to, and also similar to forestry operations. Mr. Armstrong has applied for a ruling from the commission to determine whether or not a wetlands permit is required, if this is a regulated or non-regulated activity. I have that page, that section from our regulations available to put on my screen and to read to everybody, to specifically get into where the commission's jurisdiction lies. My initial sense was that this was a regulated activity, but it again is up to the commission members to make that determination. To this point, what Mr. Armstrong would like to do is use a technique to put a benthic blanket on the bottom of the lake for a period of time, which will inhibit vegetation growth and kill existing vegetation, to create a swimming area adjacent to his property. There's either curly leaf or clasping leaf vegetation. We have a report as well from TRC and our lake consultant, which was provided to us in addition to LMAC, related to the type of vegetation that's there. So we can discuss that, and we have some recommendations. If this were to be an application and an activity that's regulated and requires a permit, we have some recommendations for how to best proceed with potentially permitting it. But the first thing to really discuss is whether or not it's considered to be a regulated activity within our regulations themselves. So I'll share my screen here. So we have section 4 of our regulations is what dictates permitted uses as of right and non-regulated uses. 4.1 lists all of the uses as of right, which do include uses incidental to the enjoyment or maintenance of residential property. Such property defined as equal to or smaller than the largest minimum residential lot size permitted anywhere in the municipality and containing a residence. Such incidental uses shall include maintenance of existing structures and landscaping, but shall not include removal or deposition of significant amounts of material from or into a wetland or watercourse, or diversion or alteration of a watercourse. So that would be the first section that may apply to indicate a permit is not required, but again, this is up to the discretion of the commission.
Excuse me, point of order.
Yes.
Is that indicating that this is a residential property? Because this is on the lake bed owned by the town of Columbia. The town of Columbia owns the lake bed, not a private property owner.
Right.
Isabel, you mentioned residential and I was confused.
Yes, sorry, it is specific to a residential property, and so that's a good point. This is land that is adjacent to the residential property, and so the commission does allow residential activity within the general area, but it's really specific to existing structures like walls and docks to this point. So that would be
Correct.
a determination for the commission.
Okay.
The other point, which is potentially relevant. And again, this is really related to enjoyment and use of property and recreational use of property and wetlands themselves. 4.2 of the regulations list the following operations and uses which shall be permitted as non-regulated uses in wetlands and watercourses, provided that they do not disturb the natural and indigenous character of the wetland or watercourse by removal or deposition of material, alteration or obstruction of water flow, or pollution of the wetland or watercourse, which is the conservation of soil, vegetation, water, fish, shellfish, and wildlife, outdoor recreation, including the use of play and sporting areas, golf courses, field trials, nature study, hiking, horseback riding, swimming, skin and scuba diving, camping, boating, water skiing, trapping, hunting, fishing, and shellfishing, and cross-country skiing where otherwise legally permitted and regulated.
Is this on Columbia Lake?
Yes, yeah.
Correct.
Okay,
So the activity itself is the installation
on
of,
town property.
yes.
Okay,
Mhm. Okay,
So Isabel, is the question at hand, is this something that our commission, wetlands, should or should not be considering? We have jurisdiction over.
Correct. The question is
Okay.
whether or not wetlands has jurisdiction. I can also read the definition of a regulated activity, which I will bring up here. Which is any operation within or use of a wetland or watercourse involving removal or deposition of material, any obstruction, construction, alteration, or pollution of such a wetland or watercourse, but shall not include specified activities in section 22A-40 of the Connecticut General Statutes. Furthermore, any clearing, grubbing, filling, grading, paving, excavating, construction, depositing or removing of material, and discharging of stormwater on the land within the following upland review areas is a regulated activity. And this activity would be within the wetland itself, within the lake.
Obviously.
okay, so, what, I guess what would be happening here is that they be removing, the growth of these, what are they, vegetation. And that, it says here that, you must not do that, right?
Can I interrupt here?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm not removing anything. I'm not doing anything. I'm laying a tarp down over the invasive weeds that are taking over the lake so that I can swim without being cut to shreds by these things, okay?
Yes,
I'm not removing anything. I'm just laying a tarp down. It's gonna just cover up what's there.
yeah, but won't it kill the vegetation?
It will
Hopefully-
destruct the vegetation.
Right,
And I got this, this came from the state DEP website. This is their idea on how to rectify some of these problems that nobody seems to want to work with.
If I may,
Yeah,
I believe first we have to resolve, does wetlands have jurisdiction over this? Once
Okay.
we do that, LMAC definitely does. We do have input from our lake consultant. We have input from the Connecticut Agricultural Experimental Station, a part of DEEP, respective and specific to should we be removing native plant. This is not invasive species. And we have that in writing from our lake consultant and from Connecticut DEEP. We are looking at removing a native plant, which is much different than an invasive species, just so everybody has some clarity. But I'd like to go back and understand, should we as wetlands be looking at this?
Oh, it says it's a regulated activity, so I think we should.
I would say this is Ian. I think it does fall under a regulated activity, but the permit needs to be a joint permit with the town.
Right.
Correct.
Because as the landowner, they have to sign on to the permit.
And Ian, LMAC will advise the town, being it's Columbia Lake.
This might be a time to go right to the DEP, not right now, but soon, and ask them about this specific situation. The DEP Wetlands Department. Because we're not actually dealing with any soils. We're just dealing with the vegetation. And go ahead. I think that's the easiest way, is just to if I don't think we have jurisdiction, but the town certainly has. But that's my, so maybe we should just talk to the appropriate person at DEP and get the DEP answer. DE.
Isabel, is there a deep wetlands? Because that would be different than Greg Bugby, the leading expert on aquatic plants in deep. He's Connecticut Agricultural Experimental, and he has used benthic blankets, and there are opportunities to consider using them. I don't want to make a yay or nay decision to Mr. Armstrong or anybody else's application. I just want to understand, what should wetlands do? Because LMAC will be moving forward Wednesday, and we'd like to coordinate our advice to the town if wetlands is going to be involved.
Mhm.
Well,
There-
we can very easily get that information from the DEP Wetlands Agency.
So there is
tomorrow or so.
There is
Whether wetlands commissions have that jurisdiction.
There is a wetlands agency with DEEP. It's a one-person division that oversees all of the wetlands agencies for the state. So traditionally, this is something that's left to the commissions to decide as to whether or not they do have jurisdiction, or whether or not an activity like this would constitute a regulated activity. So my suggestion would be for the commission to take a vote on whether or not this would be
Yeah.
regulated as an
Well-
activity depositing material in a wetland, or if it would be non-regulated pursuant to either of the two sections I read and related to recreation or property maintenance in some way.
If I may, both our lake consultant and Greg Bugby from Connecticut Deep Agriculture Experiment Station both suggested we keep this local.
That's probably
Yeah.
a good idea.
DEEP
Okay,
doesn't have,
but
to
again,
my knowledge, any specific permitting that's related
Correct.
to residential uses on properties like this. It's handled
Yeah.
by local wetlands commissions.
Correct.
They do have permitting, but that's usually something for larger projects that are run by DEEP.
Absolutely.
They have exclusive jurisdiction over.
And, or
but
if
we
it's very
work-
large,
our
the Army,
Wetlands Commission works for the town, but it also comes under the DEP. They're the ones who run the whole show.
No, I don't
That
think
was
so.
established by state law that the DEP developed and the towns developed in the Wetlands Commission. So I'm sure they've run into this problem before and have a feeling or not a feeling, but a plan for how to handle this kind of a situation.
well,
We
Tim,
don't, we work.
that's
for
why
the
we reached
state first, not
LMAC.
the town.
I'm sorry, excuse me?
I said, we work for the state first, not the town.
Not
They're
necessarily.
adhering to state regulations and statutes that's been approved.
Tim,
All the
Tim.
regulations for every town, the Inland Wetlands Commission regulations are basically the same based on the state regulations.
And I respect that. Both our lake consultant and Dr. Bugby have given us in writing that it is up to the local permitting. There is no permitting at the state level.
Oh, I don't buy that at all. But that's something I can check very easily tomorrow
But that's a
by
response.
calling DEP. And last I knew, it was more than just a one-man show. They had 3 or 4 people that worked for them. But maybe that's changed.
Well,
Okay, well, let's go ahead and I'll just find out how the state feels about it tomorrow.
Has the Board of Selectmen weighed in on, is this type of activity even allowed on their property?
the Board of
So-
Selectmen will wait for LMAC's advice. The permit goes through LMAC Wednesday night. And there are some issues specific to this application, but there are holistic issues specific to everyone on the lake wanting to do this. And we've got to find a win-win because we're talking about a native plant that's aquatic life used by aquatic life. And we have to have a balance of our lake ecosystem. This is not an invasive species. Thank God Columbia Lake has never had an invasive species. Let's keep that going, knock on wood.
Sounds
I,
good.
I guess my whole point is the permit is that needs to come in front of us has to be an allowed activity first by the town. Like
Okay,
a dock comes to us, a dock is allowed by the town. Then we see the permits, we evaluate the permits on their merit and go from there. This is the same thing. Like if the Board of Selectmen first has to weigh in on, is this a permittable thing on their property? And then we weigh in on the environmental piece.
Right.
yeah, I have no
Like-
issue with that.
Like
I'd
the
like
Board
to
of Selectmen, in my opinion, need to get off their butt first to make a decision, and then we can make the decision.
Excuse me, but let's take a step back and let's not start denigrating anybody. There's a coordinated effort that Isabel and I have worked on for what now, Isabel, 2 years of joining wetlands and LMAC together. LMAC is the advisory board to the Board of Selectmen. They can't make a move until we do. We just got the permit. Mike knows this, Mr. Armstrong. We just went to our lake consultant. We went to Connecticut Deep Agricultural Experimental. If you missed it, on the front page is Greg Bugby today. He's the expert dealing with invasive as well as knowing native plants. So we do have everything ready to go for Wednesday evening. So it's nobody's not doing their job. It's how do we best coordinate it with wetlands? And I go back to my original question. Does wetlands or should wetlands be involved in this?
Well, I think it should be, because if you look at item 2.26, regulated activity means any operation with or use of a wetland water course involving removal. So you're removing the growth, and you're depositing a material. You're to do that. So you're doing both things. So it seems like it is a regulated activity which we should be involved with.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Then
I
we
agree
should-
with you, John. I
Should we-
think, yeah, I think this should be permitted and permitted by wetlands. I mean, technically it is wetlands. So, and if you read the regulated activity, it says obstruction too. So,
Right.
yeah, I agree with you.
It's not that we're not going to let people do this, okay? I think we will let them do it, but it has to be done by certain rules and regulations.
Thank you.
Correct.
And our lake consultant and Dr. Bubby have already weighed in on what does that look like based on research and experience of using benthic blankets in
Right.
other lakes in Connecticut. I'd like to call the vote.
Okay. All in favor, vote to make this a jurisdictional ruling, and which requires a permit by the Inlands and Wetlands Committee. All in favor, raise your hand.
Don't we have to make a motion first?
Oh, it's on the board,
Oh,
John.
it's on the board. Okay, I'm sorry. All
Yeah,
right.
but
Raise my
I'll
hand.
second who made the motion? I'll second it.
All right.
Did John?
Aye.
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 Okay, it's unanimous. All in favor?
Sorry, did anyone abstain from that vote or was it unanimous?
Yeah, I think it's you. Aye.
I abstained. This is Ian.
Ian, okay.
Okay,
Tip, how did you vote? Did you abstain?
Yes, no, I voted, yes.
Okay, so that would be 4 in favor, none against, 1 abstaining.
mm-hmm,
So just to clarify the point about the order of things, because that is very valid, the Board of Selectmen does need to approve this before anything can
right,
proceed, any activity can proceed. That did used to be how the applications were handled, so they were something that people tend to submit simultaneously to the Board of Selectmen and to wetlands. We used to be under the understanding that the Board of Selectmen had to approve first before wetlands could vote on an application. Our attorneys have since clarified that related to language in the charter, that we can vote independently of one another. But both approvals are required before any work can begin. So the commission can proceed with the permit potentially, conduct a site walk if you would like to, come up with conditions and vote on whether or not to grant a permit for this activity. At the same time, the application is going to LMAC, which is an advisory commission, which will then review the application itself as well and submit a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen on whether or not to vote to allow this activity on their property.
Terrific.
Mary, can we get copies of the reports that you've received from the outside consultants, the experts?
yeah, they're on the meeting notes.
Yeah, they're in the email.
Oh, okay, okay.
There's an email that was presented, I think, this morning, Isabel,
Yes, yep.
or forwarded this morning, which we just finalized everything. So my apologies for getting it late. But you have all the information from the lake consultant as well as Greg Bugby.
There were two items that were both posted as part of the agenda packet. One from your conversation with Greg Bugby and the other from TRC that for whatever reason, and it might just be an issue that I was having with personally, with my computer, but I wasn't able to access it
Oh.
online. There was something to do with Word. I was able to get it by going through my phone and opening it through a different application, but it just was a little bit challenging. So if any commission members have had that problem, please let me know and I can make sure that hard copies are made available to you or you as well, Mike, if there's something that you'd like to see related to those reports. If you have a hard time accessing that, I can make hard copies available in the office.
Isabel,
All
I
right,
did
great,
put them on
thank
the
you.
website as well.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Mike-
so I saw them on the website and they downloaded okay, but for some reason, the two conversational reports wouldn't open for me. They were
The
blocked.
questions?
Yeah, it
Okay.
said I didn't have access for some reason. I was able to open them on my phone, but
Huh.
my computer. So it might
Well-
just be me. I don't know if other people will have a problem with it, but I just wanted to let you all know in case you do.
Okay, yeah, and I'm happy to send them again to anyone and PDF them if that makes it helpful. Oh,
Time's
what
up.
was that? Huh?
That was Mike's door, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. 10,000 things to do at once.
Yeah.
Okay, so now, let's go on, do we have any old business? I think we took care of our new business, right?
Yeah, so it would just be
we had
whether or
these-
not the commission would like to see the property in person through a site walk. And even if not, potentially a site walk for the property on Erdoney Road. That will be
Yeah.
a drainage application.
Yeah.
For Mr. Armstrong, I'm not sure what you're gonna see. We
Yeah, I
can
was just
show
gonna
you,
Say the same thing, yeah.
we can show you a plant mapping of Columbia Lake. Where this clasping pondweed is, and how much of it is around the lake. It's still within the norms, so it's not out of hand yet. Who knows what the future brings? But it's 30 acres of 280 acres of what's called clasping pondweed, and it's an important natural native pondweed. I'm not suggesting we need it all. There may be an opportunity here to remove some, but I think we're going to have to be very careful.
I do have to say though, I don't believe that we used to have this vegetation in the lake 20 years ago. So I think
We didn't.
yeah, so it's something new to our lake, and it does obstruct swimming. I mean, I have, sympathies for Mike, because, I'm running up against the same thing in my swim area, and, I swim a couple of times a day.
Yeah.
And, so
I'm not denying that. And yeah, part of me, because I grew up on 4 lakes in upstate New York,
Yeah.
welcome to a lake. They all were natural with seaweed. We're a man-made lake that is aging, and part of the aging process is too much phosphorus, too much growth. We're
Right.
still in the norms though, so we have to be careful how we do this.
okay.
I'd suggest you read both the TRC report and Dr. Buggy's report, because I think there's a way to do it.
And right at the end of the report has good suggestions that I think we have to incorporate.
Exactly.
Okay, so what's a good time for a site walk? I think it's gonna be raining on Saturday.
I won't be here.
So
Oh,
I
okay.
think
Yep, weeknights are best for me
Nights?
anyway.
Okay, this week, I think it's gonna be raining and the weather is not gonna be too good. I think it's gonna have to be done on the following week, maybe the Tuesday, the 13th or something, maybe. Was
Is
that-
this Scott Fortney's on Ordoni
Yeah,
next Tuesday?
yeah, Tuesday at 6 o'clock? 'Cause
I'm probably not available.
Oh, okay, what time are you available?
Tuesday, basketball. Sorry, that's the priority.
Monday?
Can't basketball.
would a Thursday work for everybody?
I can't. The Thursday, the 15th, no. So
Mary?
I may not be part of the quorum. I'm very familiar with Scott and Alyssa are friends. I've walked the property with them. I think Ian may have walked the property with them. So I would go with, whatever's suggested relative to the drain pipe in the back.
Okay.
The new berm, we'd like to understand where that's going if they choose to do that.
So, can everybody except Mary make it on Tuesday, the 13th at 6 o'clock?
Yep.
I-
Maybe
uh,
5, could we do it maybe like at 5 o'clock?
If you did it earlier, I might be able to make it.
Oh, okay. How
Yeah.
about 4 o'clock?
4:30.
4:30.
Perfect.
That's fine. Then we could have supper at 6, right?
Right, yeah. We see our priorities.
4:30 on Tuesday, the 13th?
At 4:30.
4:30, yeah.
I'll do my best.
All right, very
Alright,
good.
I will contact Scott and make sure that that works for him. And then if it does, I'll have an email sent to everybody, just confirming that time.
Great. Okay, so that's taken care of. All right, so item number 7, any old business that we have to talk about? No? How about approval of the meeting minutes in June, I guess it was, June 3rd? Do I have a motion to accept that?
I'll make a motion to accept it.
Second,
Second,
all in favor?
aye,
So moved. Regular meeting minutes, let's see, okay, so we approve that. We don't have any audience or citizens unless Mr. Armstrong wanted to say something.
I'm all set. Thank you.
Good, good. You know, we're not saying that you can't do this, okay? It's just that we need certain structure. And I think,
Yes, I understand. I talked with Mary earlier about this.
okay, very good.
You know, the
Yeah.
time limit, whatever. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. Okay.
Mike, I will give you the 3 documents so that you have the research in front of you. I think it'll make sense as to the timing and the procedures. It's, the bigger issue is it can't
Thank
be just Mike Armstrong. It's got to be holistic to the lake.
Right, exactly.
And we can't have the whole lake doing it either. So we got to figure out how to do that.
Okay.
Okay.
The next item is commission open discussion. And I have something I would like to talk about. I'm not sure how many of you know that we have had some blue-green algae on the lake.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
They had to close the beach down for a while and not allow swimming at the beach because of this bacteria. Actually, it's a bacteria. I was wondering if what caused it, and I think it's, from my understanding, it's contaminants from, and maybe the mosquitoes that they've been spraying around the lake that could affect it. And maybe the fertilizer from the lawns also can cause it. But it's mainly the hot weather, I believe.
Mhm.
But it actually disappeared after a while, a short while, but the heat, I guess, it may come back. And I think we may have a problem with it. So I'd like to know if we are going to continue to check the lake for this stuff, because it is harmful to animals and to people. And I think it's a contaminant and it can affect the body. And it's a dangerous kind of a thing to have around. So I think we have to continue checking on it and keep in mind that if there's some available, we have to warn these swimmers that go out all the time, and including you, John, if you go
Yeah.
swimming, you don't want to swim in this stuff. So I think we better have some means of identifying it as soon as it happens.
So if we see it, I mean, who should we report it to?
If I may,
Go
Yeah.
ahead.
I'd like to provide some perspective in history and then what's going on this year. This is not the first time we have seen algae blooms. For the past 9 years, we have seen algae blooms on this lake. Some of them are non-toxic, some of them are toxic. Recently, in the last 4 years, what we are seeing has been toxic cyanobacteria. Please know, cyanobacteria is natural. It exists everywhere in every water body. It's when it becomes mixed with warm water, hot temperatures, stagnant water, that it may, with phosphorus, rise to the top of the lake and create these algae blooms or patches. So we've been seeing this for 9 years. Now, from a perspective, and John, I know you're on CLA, the CLA has joined with LMAC and the town to be one public education forum where when there is a sighting of cyanobacteria, and there was more sightings this morning, two things will happen. When we see it start to form a patch, whoever it is, we ask them to text the Columbia Lake Association at gmail.com, email or text, actually me. And I represent and work with the town on this. The town immediately will put out an alert on its website. We'll also put out an alert on Everything Columbia and its own Facebook page. And the town has consistently done that for the past at least 5 or 6 years when we put this in place. So unfortunately, an aging lake, this is not new. The causes, and John, you hit some of them. The number one cause of this is stormwater drainage coming from 1,980 acres of land surrounding Columbia Lake. The watershed area stormwater drainage, groundwater with or without fertilizer. You're absolutely correct. Septic systems can leach phosphorus, maybe not bacteria, obviously bad septic systems, but even good septic systems can leach phosphorus. Phosphorus causes this. Rainwater, it can be full of phosphorus, and this can, with warm temperatures and warm water and hot temperatures, cause the rise of phosphorus combined with cyanobacteria for these patches. So cut to the chase, we are on top of this. We do have this. I would like to put every member on the Wetlands Commission on at least the CLA email list, so you get the same exact updates, and or encourage you to look at the town website. The town has now a text mechanism, which we signed up for. And there's also Facebook and Everything Columbia. So we're trying to get that word out every time this happens.
Very good.
Questions?
That answers my questions. Very good. Thank you, Mary.
John,
Okay.
does that help you?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay.
Just watch it when you're swimming, that's all. And if you see it,
Yeah.
report it to Mary or anybody. The town should know.
Yeah, and I caution you, you have to see the patch. It's a bloom, it's green.
No.
There will be times when you will see small paint-like blue-green chips in the water. It's not enough to be toxic. And we had Eastern Highlands out at the town beach last week. It was closed for 2 hours to assess with each Eastern Highlands, was this bad enough to have any closures? It was not. It was a cautionary measure, thankfully done by the Director of Recreation until Eastern Highlands Health could evaluate it. So we were in good shape. Unfortunately, there were a couple other spots on the lake where we told people, do not swim in this, or swim at your risk and take a shower as soon as you get out of the lake. And most people heeded to that.
Very good. Okay, thank you for your update. My daughter takes a kayak on the lake quite often, and she's the one that told me about it. Okay, so do we have any administrative reports? Isabel?
Yes, I have 2. 29 Erdoney Road.
Oh my God, another Erdoney.
Wow.
There is a 30 by 50 metal shed with a lean-to attached to it that will be used as a garage. The property with the improvements, drainage has been assessed. I would say that the structure itself is probably 70 feet or greater from any marked wetlands that I could see when I did go out to the site to look at the proposed location. With the building, the lot will comply with the nutrient allocation plan, which is one of the ways that we do work to mitigate phosphorus runoff into the lake. Any structure over 100 square feet needs to comply with the plan, and if the parcel itself doesn't meet the nutrient loading requirements of the town, then it needs to be reduced by 10% from its previous condition with the addition. And so that's a way that we interface with residents and get a lot of additional infiltration to mitigate some of that phosphorus runoff. Is really what we look at when those kinds of impervious surfaces are added. So with that addition, it is compliant with the nutrient allocation plan. I didn't see any opportunity for the construction of the building to impact the wetlands that are in the area. And drainage is well managed on the site despite the despite the size of the shed or the garage. And the other application was for a 12x16 picnic pavilion at 12 Sunrise Drive. It's just barely in the upland review area, about 20 feet into it or so, from my memory. It's going on an existing patio that was previously permitted when the pool itself was installed, but it's a good distance away from any flagged wetlands, and I saw no reason to be concerned about impact to them.
Okay. I thought I saw, okay. Okay, anyway, it's time to adjourn. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Third,
Aye.
aye.
Aye, aye,
Thank you
aye.
all.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Have a
Thank you,
good
Mary.
one.
Thank you, John.
Have a
Thank
good
you,
one.
everyone.
Thanks, Isabel.